Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and today we're back for another installment of The Stacks Book Club. We're going to be discussing The New Wilderness by Diane Cook, and our guest is Vann Newkirk, a senior editor at The Atlantic and the host of the Floodlines podcast. Our conversation delves into the world of climate disasters through the story of The New Wilderness, and we've got plenty of spoilers today. So please read the book before you listen. Be sure to listen until the very end of this episode because I will also be announcing our book club pick for March. If you love this podcast and being able to discuss books you read with other book lovers and generally believe in supporting the work of artists you appreciate, consider joining the Stacks Pack on Patreon. That's a website that allows you to make monthly contributions in exchange for perks. Things like our virtual book club, discounts on merch, and shout outs on this show. If this sounds like you, head to patreon.com/thestacks and join. This week's shout outs go to some of our newest members: Alex Bromley, Kanisha Lucille, Erica, Jess Krieger, Megan Bannister, Sarah, Courtney Daly, Jasmine Sepinen, Kayla Latondre, and Kat Duffy. Thank you all so much for your continued support of The Stacks. Okay, now it's time for the Stacks Book Club conversation of The New Wilderness by Diane Cook with our incredible guest, Vann Newkirk. All right, everybody. Very excited. We are back with Vann Newkirk, journalist, podcaster, all-around cool dude. And it's a Stacks Book Club day. So we're talking about The New Wilderness by Diane Cook. And before I say anything else, there will be spoilers on this episode. So if you have not finished the book, pause, go read it, come back. I don't want to be in trouble for ruining anything for any of you. And now, Vann, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we always basically start here with the book club episodes, which is like just generally overall, what did you think of the book?
I thought it was a really fascinating way to talk about some of the anxieties we have about the environment and also about motherhood and parenthood. But some of the takeaways in the ending were a little bit confused for me, and so that's why we'll talk about them eventually, but I thought the overall setup and framing and writing was beautiful. I'm just trying to figure out what happened in the end.
Okay, yeah. I'm very much with you. I think for me, overall, I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I don't really love fiction. Like, fiction just doesn't always speak to me, and usually I'm like over it pretty early. But what I appreciated most about this book is I felt like I would never pick up a nonfiction book about like survival tactics and that kind of stuff. But I felt like I learned a lot of that in this book and was very interested by a lot of that stuff. I had issues with some of the pacing and like where she focused her energy sometimes. Like I sometimes was over Bea and Agnes and was much more interested in the kind of group dynamic and what was going on with like the power struggle. But I really liked her writing style. I thought it was great how she could use just like a sentence and describe the whole environment instead of talking about each leaf or grain of sand or whatever, which would have driven me absolutely crazy. So those are kind of like my general thoughts about the book. You do work in climate justice, environmental justice type stuff. And you said that this book was on kind of like one of the books you were planning to read next, which is why we picked it, because I was sort of intrigued by it too. I'd seen really good reviews about it. I'm curious how you approach something like this with your background in climate justice, like how you're looking at it, what you're thinking about, if at all, related to your kind of professional life.
So one, I think, interesting thing about me and how I approach these kind of stories especially is that I'm kind of over the big apocalypse as a framework for understanding at least climate change, because it's not how it will happen on Earth.
Right.
That's not how people are currently experiencing it. You know, the idea of some major cataclysm and people, like, number one, you know, I'm not super concerned about capital H humanity and whether it survives or not, to be honest. I'm concerned about communities and whether they survive. Right. And something happening now that's not even on the news could mean the end of a community. And that's important to me. You know, I don't know if I'm super worried about like the species surviving, because
Right.
if I die, my family die, I don't really care about everybody else.
I mean, true.
Yeah, but like that framework, the big disaster, has been how we talk about
Mm-hmm.
climate in fiction often, and that's been the allegory. And so what was kind of refreshing about The New Wilderness is it was a couple steps away from like the most dramatic use of the big disaster.
Yeah.
And the things that were happening that were driving people out of the city, it was kind of smart to me because they were talking about all these really, this cascade of smaller events
Yeah.
that were slowly eroding a normal way of life. People were doing their best to adapt to it. But you could see like the really useful thing for me was how it showed how really mundane things can break down society. So the detail I always remember is at one point, when they're talking about new people moving out to the wilderness, they're like, we ran out of sand for concrete.
Mm.
And nobody thinks about this,
Right.
but yes, there is a global looming sand shortage for building materials.
I
Because
didn't know that was real.
all the sand we use comes from like for that type of stuff. You can't take it from beaches and deserts. The most useful sand for building has to be eroded by water. And so
Mm.
it all comes from like river deltas.
Oh, wow.
And we have dug up so much of the useful building sand in the world.
Wow.
And so stuff like that, like really small, to me, the one really good thing about the book was that Diane Cook is just into the weeds on
Yes.
lots of future bad things in the world.
She was into the weeds on a lot of stuff. Like
Yeah.
the detail of like the sinew that they were using and stuff. I was like, yo, I would never read about this if it was not like, it's like when you take your medicine, like a spoonful of sugar, like with the medicine, right? It's like, I would never know some of these details if it weren't for it being packaged kind of in this like literary fiction. But she went in on like the survival techniques and like all the little details. You could tell she geeked out on research for sure.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm going to teach you about,
Right.
survival. It's
Right.
really, it is just presented as a matter of fact, as a matter of survival. And that's how it comes to the people in the first place.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's, it's not like, it never comes across like I read a whole lot of stuff about how to survive,
Right.
and I'm going to pack it in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it. Yeah, it was like, let me just present you with the information, but there's no way I would even watch like a documentary about this. Like it was a great side effect of the book, and I'm glad I learned this stuff, but like it's something that if it wasn't presented this way, I would quickly move away from it. But then again, I also feel like if I was in this situation, I would have been dead quickly. Like I would have been one of the first people to go. I don't know. I don't think I could hang. Do you think you could hang?
I mean, I don't know. I like to think that I could hang. And, I like to think that growing up where I grew up and, actually having killed animals before will do me good. But honestly, I figure if this ever happens, it'll be so chaotic that skills and all that experience doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
There's moments in the book where people just die, and that's how it is. People just die.
Right.
Yeah.
I would definitely just die. I just like, I mean, some of the stuff that they were talking about, I was like, yeah, I'd have to be near someone who was a real survivalist. Like I would have to be paired with someone from Naked and Afraid or something, because I would truly be like, where is the Ritz-Carlton? I need to go.
Oh, see, yeah, I couldn't do Naked and Afraid. I mean, that's just that's a bad setup.
Yeah, no,
That's a bad setup.
Like there are certain reality shows that I'm like, I can't even watch because this is my nightmare. Like Survivor is pretty close to me for that. Like I'm like, I don't even want to see you eating bugs. Like no, it's a no for me. I like my reality television, like The Bachelor. I want a mansion. I want beautiful gowns. Like
Yeah,
Aretha
I like
Franklin.
comfort.
Yes,
Comfort's great.
exactly.
Yeah,
So I
comfort is
think,
great.
yeah, I would be out so quick in the New Wilderness. I think I would have had to find a way to like become a ranger or something, because I could not hang in the like originalist group.
Oh yeah, they. I mean, things are really rough for them. They talk about, they look at all the newcomers at one point, and they're like, "You have all your fingers and toes," and I'm like, "Whoa, okay,
Yeah.
let's." Yeah,
Mm,
I like that.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah,
and I'd like to keep all of them. Thank you very much.
yes.
Okay. So one of the things, like, I feel like one of the big parts of the book was the mother-daughter relationship, and like B and Agnes. And for me, I was interested in that, but for whatever reason, like I don't know. I was I just didn't think that that was nearly as like impressive to me as the stuff that was going on with the survival. I'm curious how you felt about those parts.
I was reading the book in search of a resolution to
Mm,
that dynamic,
yeah.
and there is no resolution to that dynamic, and that's probably the point.
Yeah.
But coming to the end, I was definitely disappointed that there was no resolution, and
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, that's it. It was, I think it is deliberately messy and deliberately complicated view of maternal relationships,
Hmm.
of just, what the duty of a parent to a child is anyways.
Right.
And this is something, I hate doing too much to find hidden meanings in stories. I
Yeah.
think I think we'd be better off in most cases by just reading what's
Yeah.
in front of us.
Yeah.
But I do think some of this was about the relationship between like humans and the earth.
Yes.
And so that I thought the relationship between Agnes and B was kind of like doing double duty to show the relationship between people and Mother Earth
Right.
in some way. And so in that case, it felt a little, at least, even if it's not the intent of the author, giving that meaning to it made it feel a little bit more, uh, made me feel a little bit more comfortable with the ambiguity.
Yeah. So then what do you think she's saying with what do you think she's saying about our human relationship to the earth when you think of it in terms of B and Agnes, B being the earth and Agnes being the humans?
Well, I think it's, love is not necessarily a uncomplicated thing, and it coexists with, uh, passing harm and hurt back and forth. And even if, Mother Earth loves humans or should love humans, the fact of the matter is that humans and our children are demanding and can be awful sometimes.
Right, right.
And yeah, people are, you can't expect mothers to be saintly all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. I didn't really think about it in those terms, like of be like with that analogy or whatever. But I do think that like I think that there's this expectation, and you're a parent also, that parents have to put their children first. And what does that actually look like when you're in like these really extreme life and death situations versus theoretically putting your child first? Like theoretically, B was doing everything she could to help Agnes. However, in practice, I don't know. Like it was a little more of a competitive relationship. Like they were a little more equal than necessarily like mother daughter or parent child. And I mean, that part is the thing that stuck with me, I think, the most about their relationship is like, what's the difference between saying you put your child first versus actually putting your child first? And what does the child think of that? Like if you asked Agnes, does B put you first? She'd probably be like, no. Like,
What? Yeah.
she'd be like, that woman does not even like me. And if you ask B, she'd be like, I do everything I've ever done is for Agnes. And so It's interesting. And then of course, like the part where she runs out on them when B leaves, like that puts a really crazy wrench in that idea, because then she goes from being a mother to being a child, right? Like that,
Right.
you remember that like all parents are also someone else's child. And so I don't know, that moment was really great to me. Like that, I did not really see that coming. And that whole scene, like where they go to the camp and they like destroy everything and they're like eating out of the vending machine, and I'm just thinking like, oh my god, you're all gonna have such bad diarrhea because you are eating like processed sugar right now. And then she gets in the truck, and like that whole moment was really, I thought, one of my favorite like sections in the book.
Yeah, it was the one where I felt like the chaos
Yes.
just made the most. It was the best chaos.
Yeah, it came together in such a good
sense.
way.
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. I would always remember. I think of, if I remember anything from this book, in years, it'll be the scene where right after that, Agnes's father feeds her roadkill that the truck ran over.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Just so
Okay,
disgusting. Yeah.
It's Carl, not Agnes's father. Carl feeds him.
Carl.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Carl. I feel like I have so many things I want to talk about when it comes to Carl. Okay, let's just go, I guess, get into Carl first of all. Okay, wait, before we get into Carl, I want to get into the names really quickly. Did you happen to notice that all of the like women in the first group had 3-letter names, like Val, Deb, and B?
Yeah, Val, Deb, B.
And then all the guys were, it was like Carl, Juan, and Glenn, and they all had 4-letter names. And I was like, is this a thing? Like, is it? But I don't think it ended up being a thing, because when the newcomers came, they had different names. And I think like, the kids had like weird, like Pine Cone or whatever the fuck. Was it Pine Cone?
Yeah, Pine Cone and brother and sister.
Brother and sister. But I was like trying to figure out why they all had 3-letter names. And like, I don't know if there was a reason, but it definitely was a thing where I was like, what's happening with these names right now? But Carl, okay, I hate Carl, but I also know exactly who Carl is, and I hate that person too. Like Carl, before they all have to go to the wilderness, is exactly the guy that everyone hates, who definitely was like at the Capitol, like in the insurrection, like, but didn't go inside, but was like standing on the steps, like being like, we did it, like we're here, like just so horrible.
Carl has strong YouTube energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Carl.
Oh my god, Carl loves explaining things to everyone. And Carl thinks he's hot, and Carl is boo. Like Carl definitely has like a golden retriever like avatar on his Twitter. Like Carl is all of those things. And just the thought that he got to be like hot shit when they're in the wilderness is just like makes my skin crawl.
And like, yeah, and the fun thing about Carl, you mentioned names, and the I think the names do have some meaning. Like Carl means free man.
Does it?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I had a phase in life where I was really into names.
Oh, I thought you like Googled all of the names from this book, and I was like, you take this podcast more seriously than I do.
No, I just know some of the like old, the really common names came from me looking at my own name.
Okay.
And lots of, men's names are some variation of like, in some language, man or free man.
What does Vann mean?
Good man. That's so it's short for my great grandfather's name was Vander, which was obviously short for Evander, which means like good man.
Oh, okay. So you and Carl have similar names.
Similar, yeah.
But you seem like an actual good man, and he seems like not a good man.
Well, his is free man. Well, let's be clear about that.
Okay, free man.
And that's why I think it's like, it's like this. You think that the archetypes that are going to come out ahead are maybe going to be like the meathead, or like the, you got to be really physically strong or smart.
Right.
Carl is none of that.
None of it.
Carl is just like pure will to power. And
right.
And when he gets it, he does nothing with it. He just likes to be in power.
Right. Like he just Yes, he does nothing with it. And except for try to starve Glenn to death. It's like, what are you doing? Like the one person you're threatened by. But Glenn was like so useless anyways that it was like, why are you going after Glenn? Also, don't you know that you should be going after you should be leading the group and not trying to destroy the one person who knows everything? Like it's just so dumb and like mediocre and just like, ugh, Carl, get a grip.
But that's the point, I guess.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Like, I mean, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Carl's like the reason we're all in the situation in the first place. You know, like if we're talking about B as Mother Earth and Agnes as the children, it's like Carl is capitalism, you know, like he's the one who like doesn't get the game and is just fucking everything up kind of thing, you know?
But I also think it's funny that Carl is the one who needs the wilderness the most.
Right.
He is the one who it feels like would be the most unremarkable outside of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For sure. That's such a good point. Yes. Like that in the world where there's lots of competition and lots of people, he is just in the middle of the barrel, but he can assert himself in a certain way in the wilderness to give himself purpose or meaning, or so he thinks. And then, of course, Val, who just is like, you know, we all know
Val
who Val is too. Yeah.
But Val changes.
Yeah. The thing about Val is that I think Val's playing a much smarter game than Carl. Like she recognizes who and what Carl is to the group, and she's like into that because she understands what that means for her.
Yeah. And that's why she's trying so hard to have a baby by Carl.
Right. But then whose baby does she have? Is it Carl's or is it someone else?
I think it's Carl's. But
I thought Carl couldn't have children. I just decided.
That's probably so.
Like, I just thought maybe she ended up sleeping with someone else and got pregnant and then like carried it off as Carl's, but maybe Carl couldn't have kids.
That's probably right. Carl can't have kids. Now I see it. Yeah.
I feel like Carl can't have kids in my mind because fuck Carl. But you know, whatever. Carl. And like, you know, I think the game of survival that B and Agnes are playing and like the different ways that they're playing it, and like that B's doing it a much more psychological, like power dynamic game, and Agnes is just doing a straight like survival as leadership game was also really interesting to me. Like the different, like all the dynamics within the group I was very interested in, and like Agnes's purity and sort of holier than thou attitude versus B's like kind of more ruthless, like you do what you need to do to get shit done. I appreciated that because I definitely see myself as more of a B than an Agnes. Like I just feel like you play the game that's in front of you versus like trying to rewrite the rules. And I'm sure that, you know, in the long run, whatever Agnes was doing is probably better. But I felt like B was more compelling and more exciting to me. Like that's the drama. I love drama.
Yeah. I mean, I think the takeaway is that there is no better.
Yeah.
Is that it's just, you know, people. There are no truly winning strategies in this game.
Right.
And Agnes is defined by having less of a tether to society. She doesn't give a shit about society or like overall group dynamics.
Right.
Or, you know, justice. She does not care.
Right.
And that is what really marks her, because a lot of the things people are bringing in their presuppositions about what's right or wrong are like totally alien to Agnes.
Right. And that's because
Agnes was old enough to remember that stuff.
But wasn't she only like 5?
I mean, still, you have a sense of, she remembers ice cream, and you have some like sense of preschool right or wrong, at least at that point.
Right. But I feel like she did have a very like elementary understanding of like right and wrong, but I don't think like she clearly did not have a mature understanding of like human interaction and like desire versus you know all that kind of stuff. So I do feel like it makes sense because she was sort of raised, you know, in the wilderness, and so she doesn't get the power dynamics in the same way.
Yeah, and she's not seeing them as like political.
Right.
in the way, yeah. I think B and Carl and Val and Glenn are playing like this really political game.
Mm-hmm.
And Agnes is like side-eyeing all of them because it's like,
Right.
what is this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I love, one of the things I really love that Diane Cook does is that she sort of sets up Agnes early on as like being like really naturey and good at like following the animals and being quiet and sneaky. And then there's like a few different times throughout the book where B's like, yeah, stop following me. And she's like, how did she know I was there? And it's like, of
Yeah.
course, because she's 9, or like she's 12 and she thinks that she's like super stealth. Like I definitely remember times like thinking I was like hiding and like eavesdropping on my parents on the phone or whatever. And my mom's like, get off the phone, like hang up the other line or whatever, And I just loved that because it's just a reminder that like even whatever Agnes is sort of presenting to us isn't the full picture of what's going on. And she definitely is still a child and she definitely she's not like this super wilderness warrior queen like she thinks that she is.
Right.
And I really like that.
I liked it because it felt like it felt like a better way to do the unreliable narrator thing. Because she's clearly an unreliable narrator, but she's not lying and she's not deluded. She's just presenting the world through a child's eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of the things she just simply believes to be true, are directly proven not to be true. But it's not like they overturn, like it's not like she experienced him as like lying. It's just like, oh, wow. My mom knew where I was.
Right. Right. Like it's like she just has such a narrow view of what's going on. And so it's true to her, but it's so narrow and it ends up being unreliable to us because we're seeing a bigger picture of like what's going on and how things are working. Let's take a quick break and then we'll be back because I want to talk about some like symbolism, which I never do, but I think we have to.
Okay.
Valentine's Day is upon us and I've got love on the brain. Love for books. Duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. All right, we're back from our break. We're going to talk about some sort of symbolism-y things. I don't even know if that's the right word. Well, first of all, I feel like this book is a kind of book that would be taught in school because I feel like an English teacher could really go ham on like all of the symbolism and like the allegory and the analogies and all. It just like, I don't know that I understood a lot of it, but I feel like it's rich with that kind of stuff,
Yeah. I mean, at the end, the last quarter of the book is about going to a mountaintop.
Yeah.
Which, is pretty symbolic.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my mind, so, okay, you set up a thing that I hadn't thought about, which is like B as Mother Earth and then Agnes as humans. But in my mind, I also felt like the originalists, right, are like the natives of whatever the land is, sort of, and then the newcomers are like the Americans, right? Like they're just like peak American to me. They just felt like so like they come in their like Converse sneakers and like their jellies and like they have like their nail polish and like all this stuff, and I just was like, you guys are so unprepared for this conversation. Like when we talk about climate justice, like now it's like Americans are like, we can't even get on board that this is happening as a country, let alone like do anything about it. Whereas like in other countries, they're actively like trying to make changes in their culture and like do things. And in America, it's like depends on who's in charge of the government, whether we believe in science, you know? And like that to me was just like I just saw them and was like, I hate them because they're us, and now I feel bad about myself.
Yeah, and you can see as there's more and more signs littered throughout the wilderness and in the book that like there's just this steady, overwhelming tide of people slowly moving into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Less of a wilderness.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
You see where it's going. I mean, like a third of the way through the book, there's like a flash forward and the narrator says there is no more wilderness state. So you know where it's going.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it's interesting how ominously like those signs are seated throughout the book.
Right.
It's like, oh, we see these, you have the newcomers and you have like the
Mavericks.
The Mavericks. Yeah. The Mavericks are the real, and, obviously Americans' usage of Maverick
right.
is part of this. Right.
Right. I can't hear that word and not think of Sarah Palin.
Yeah. Sarah Palin, John McCain.
Yeah. Like that, just those words are inextricably linked in my mind. Like those two people and that word just locked in.
Yeah, Maverick is like a synonym of pioneer.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's basically you have lots of pioneers who are kind of just like leeching off of the people, the originalists who are there. And also the fun thing for me is like originalist feels like number one, the people who are referred to as originalists in America are like the conservative people
right.
who believe the Constitution
right.
was written and cannot be changed.
Right.
So there's like that's also American and kind of even biblical.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's clearly symbolic and meant to invoke this idea of like successions of people and their differing relationships to the land.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess, I think in another interpretation, like from what I just said, is also that if you think of all of the people as part of like one community, like you're saying, the originalists become a certain kind of, like founding fathers type, like we set the rules and this is our place and there's this ownership over this thing that is not theirs. And then the newcomer, the newcomers then become the people who are trying to push back a little bit against that or like make changes. And then the Mavericks are just like, we're here to do our own shit and we don't want to follow anybody's rules. They're like the libertarians or whatever.
Yeah. They're like, fuck that.
Right.
Yeah, each generation is a little bit further away from the holy rule book, right?
Right. And like the thing that's so of course about the Mavericks is like the guy that ends up showing up who is a Maverick or whatever. It's like he only shows up because he needs something from them. He needs and wants and is there to steal and it's that same sort of entitlement. That's Carl if Carl hadn't gotten picked to be an originalist, right? Like if Carl couldn't have gotten in on his own, that's what Carl would have done.
That was, I felt like it was the most heavy-handed symbolism. Adam.
Yeah. Oh, Adam. Of course, that was his name.
Adam, and his behavior was just like so openly, tipping the hand of what the symbol was. He goes and sleeps in their bed.
Right.
And, just is like appropriative of everything they have and own. Is totally just doesn't care about any of their customs or rules. Yeah, I think like the what really got me was him sleeping in their bed while they were in it.
Right.
Him sleeping in Deb's bed, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's me.
Right.
And then he makes off with like their most prized possession,
Which is a
and
cast iron.
even though he cannot even really like carry it or even benefit from it,
Right.
the way they can, he carries it off just because it's valuable.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And
yeah.
of course, he's Adam.
Right. And then, okay. And then the last like sort of group of people that I feel like is part of this sort of new wilderness ecosystem is the Rangers, led by the person that we're supposed to love, Bob, but
Bob
really hurt
Don't
me.
love Bob.
Bob
Don't
hurt
love
me
Bob.
deeply. First of
Don't
all,
love Bob.
B, stealing all the fucking lollipops, you snake. Okay, B, that's not cool. Those were for your daughter. She wanted candy. She didn't even know she wanted candy because she'd never even had it, which I thought was really sneaky. But the Rangers and the symbolism, there's like a few ways to look at them, but mostly they're just like the government, right? Like that's what I mean, that was pretty obvious because they work for whatever administration, I think is what they called it, whichever, new administration. But again, it's like the police, again, it's like these people who are no different, no better, no smarter, just connected or whatever. And that's how they get their job as a ranger. There's, it's not as, Carl was one sentence away from being able to be one. If he had said that he wanted to enforce the rules, he would have been a ranger. Like, he's no different than these people. They just have power and benefit, which is sort of, like how I view the police. Like, the police are trained to be terrible, but they're really, if they hadn't been police officers, they could have been something else, like, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but my point being is like, the institution of policing is what is so corrupt and terrible, and it attracts certain people. But anyone, like Vann, if you wanted to be a police officer, you could be a police officer, but you'd have to, I guess, want to be a police officer. Sort of my point.
It's not a position that requires a whole lot of existing skill. Yeah.
Right. Like, you learn the job when you get there, and anyone conceivably can do the job. You just have to be willing to buy into the job. And unfortunately, the job means being a fucking dick, like the job means forcing people to wander all over the wilderness for months on end and then telling them, oh, sorry, you're in trouble now. You have to go somewhere else. Like, but anyone can do that. And it just,
that's why I thought if we're really, reaching into the allegory bag here.
Okay, go.
I think the Rangers are angels.
Interesting.
Like Old Testament angels. And I think a lot of the
they're like evil, because Old Testament angels are like mean and like,
well, they're like capricious. They just there's a plan, and Old Testament God does not care about whether you understand the plan, whether it makes sense to you, and it really like feels to me a lot of like around Exodus.
Ooh.
A lot of the plan is like you get a map. The map may or may not make sense to you. You got to do a long walk to whatever lower middle post, and it's terrible. It's shitty. People may not even be there when you get there. Right. And the angel, the reason why it felt like angels to me is because they don't really have any. They just sort of appear.
That's true.
They appear out of the wilderness, right?
Right.
And they are different. They have different personalities, but no real backstories. And they're just there to be representatives of some higher administration, capital A,
right.
That appears to change several times,
yes,
or at least change its mind several times over the course of the story, but still is like this indecipherable, impossibly far off thing that is, dictating the lives of these people in the wilderness by whim, it appears. So that seems like it feels like they are angels.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good. That's really good. I do not have any biblical knowledge myself, and so I would definitely totally miss that. But I feel like, what little I've seen of the Prince of Egypt film, I know I'm a little Old Testament here and there. I did go to Catholic school, but I didn't really go to Catholic school. I didn't really do much Catholic stuff, but I do see, because like, you know, I guess people always talk about in the Old Testament that God is like pretty vicious. It can be a pretty vicious God, a pretty
he's a God of vengeance.
Yes, vengeful.
And,
that's right. That's
Mhm.
right. That's an interesting take. So then the administration then is, in that analogy, is God.
Yes, the administration is God.
And then the originalists are sort of Moses and the Jews wandering for 40 years in the desert.
Yep.
But there's no end of the 40 years in the same way.
There's no end.
The end is a little different.
Yeah. There is no promised land.
Yeah, there's no promised
obviously,
land.
like private lands are the allegory for the promised land. There's no promised land here.
Did you think that the private lands were real as you were reading, or did you think it was made up?
See, this is one thing I'm going to take credit for. I knew that the wilderness was going to become the private lands. And that's actually when I started kind of building the biblical or the Old Testament allegory in my head, because like the land they were on was what was actually promised.
I see. Oh, that's so good. Okay.
Yeah.
But so you knew then that meant that the private lands didn't already exist.
Yeah.
That
and everybody, I knew that it didn't exist. It felt to me like there was some confusion in the middle where people, when they first start seeing some of the newcomers and new people are in there who are like, yeah, the private lands definitely exist. And they never explain exactly what they are. And I actually think that a lot of the people coming in under the assumption that they don't believe the wilderness and private lands to be different places.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
In my mind, the private lands was like a really great resort, like La Quinta, where they filmed The Bachelorette, like somewhere really nice, like lots of little casitas or something. That's what it was in my mind. So in my mind, it was different than the wilderness because, again, for me, the wilderness is not a promised land or a private land. The wilderness is one of my many nightmares. So in my mind, I created, a lovely place with a pool and a spa. But I also knew that the private lands were not real. Like I never bought into the private lands thing. It just felt like the kind of fairy tale, that people have and say. Okay. I know you said that you had some kind of like what happened at the end, and I definitely want to talk about sort of the unraveling of the whole thing, which I think probably starts with Glenn's death. Right?
Yes.
Like that's like the beginning of the unraveling. So do we think that Glenn's death was an accident, or do we think that Carl did something to him when they went away together to do whatever the fuck they did?
I think it was a mutually understood not accident.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I think Glenn wanted out. I think
it was slightly more malicious than that. I think that Carl did something to Glenn, and then Glenn realized that he was never going to have the peace to just be in the wilderness and just be like dead weight for everybody. And so he was like, I just need to die. So like, I think that Carl pushed it, but I don't think that Glenn fought it. Whatever it was. That's sort of in my mind.
That makes sense. I mean, that would make sense to me with their characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew when they went off, like,
yes, it was over.
Glenn was a dead man. Yeah,
I was like, Glenn, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I guess to your point, Glenn agreeing to go was Glenn being like, yeah, I'm cool with dying now.
Yeah. And I think everybody knew. Except Agnes.
Well, even Agnes knew. She was like, or was it B who was like, don't go. Yeah. B was like, don't go. I mean, yes, definitely. I think in a lot of ways, B is the reader also. Like, because we understand the politics, like we have a greater understanding than Agnes. So Agnes is, again, like we said, unreliable to us, but B is a much more, is a better avatar for the reader, I think, in most cases. Okay. So Glenn dies. We start to have the unraveling. Do we think that they kept the wilderness open in out of respect to Glenn? And so when they found out that Glenn died or whatever, then they were like, great, we can close it? Or do you think that those things were unrelated?
I had not thought about them keeping it open for Glenn until you just mentioned it.
Okay, so probably
of course,
not.
he was the progenitor of the experiment, so maybe. But yeah, I think by the time he died, it was out of hand already.
Yeah.
And they shortly after that, they peel back and say, the wilderness is basically gone anyways.
Right.
Yeah, there's just been so many people already trampling it,
Right.
that it's a park.
I mean, it's also like that metaphor or whatever. It's barely a metaphor. It's pretty straightforward, but it's like humans can't do anything. Like humans can't just be part of any ecosystem. Like we just have to ruin everything as quickly as possible. I don't know. That's like one of the questions I have about the book, which is like, can humans be in, like we used to be? Like Native American folks were out, or Native people in all parts of the world were out just living off the land in a way that they were part of the ecosystem. But is that just not, that's just never going to be possible again, is what this book is saying.
See, I guess I come at this question of, what is wilderness?
Sure.
From a bit of a different angle. So it's that's one place where I'm not sure the book was convincing to me.
Okay.
Or maybe it was,
Okay.
But I think even you look at like hunter-gatherer societies, people have always changed the environment in ways that moved away from pure wilderness, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And I don't know if pure wilderness exists really ever,
Right.
because all animals, including people, exert their will in the environment and change it and leave their waste. It just so happens that people have, and sometimes, plastic waste. There is no, no matter how advanced and putting plastic and glass and steel bubbles we get, the air inside those bubbles are still the environment.
Right.
And so like, we're always part of the environment.
Sure.
The question for me is, how do we steward that in a way that protects biodiversity, that makes it, that preserves resources for future generations? I'm not totally interested in the idea of pure wilderness because I don't think it exists.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so that is kind of the point of the end of this piece, which is like people inhabiting an environment are always going to exert their will in the environment. There's just no way around it.
Right.
If you consider a wilderness to be a place without people, then by definition, a place with people will cease to be wilderness.
Sure. I guess my question then for you is sort of like, to your point, is if every creature or living thing in any environment is sort of, definitely shapes the environment, why can't the humans just live in balance with the other things, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like when I used to go on outdoor ed trips as kids, I used to talk about how like bears eat berries and then the berry seeds like grow and whatever. I don't know, like from their stool and all this stuff. So like, why can't the humans be like that? Like, or can they?
Well, a lot of that's bullshit.
Okay, great.
Yeah, a lot of that's bullshit.
You. And as you can tell, I'm super science minded.
Animals, all living creatures exploit their environment to the degree that they can. Right. And so, I think it used to be way more bison in America than like we could actually support as a landmass. Okay. And there was no like circle of life shit going on. It was just like climatic changes and stuff cut down all the trees, and white explorers cut down all the trees, and there was a bison explosion.
Right.
Because bison there will be as many bison as can eat, right? And that's basically the equation that governs every single living creature on Earth. Is there will be as many as can eat comfortably.
Right.
And humanity is no different. The only real difference is we have the intellectual means to dramatically increase the amount that we can eat.
Right.
And so what's important to me though is that we also have the intellectual means to decide that we would like to create an earth, even if it is not wilderness, where, as many creatures can live as possible, where we can, for the first time, really create a system where we don't exploit to the fullest of our abilities
Right.
the earth.
But to your point, then that would mean like really going against our nature, if you will.
Well, I don't know.
Our human nature. Well, if all animals
some human groups have already made this decision.
They have.
Yeah. And have in history and have decided that they wanted to become stewards of their of the land where they live, that they wanted to prioritize future generations of people, even if they did not care about animals per se.
Right.
They want to live in a way that preserve things for their descendants.
Right, but that still is like, that's an active choice against instinct is sort of what I'm saying. Like, to do that, humans would have to go against our animal or whatever instincts, our human instincts, to exploit and to create more and more until we can no longer eat. Like, to live in balance or to be stewards of our environments or anything like that is an active choice. It's not something that is just going to happen. Is sort of what I'm saying.
It's an active choice, but I'd like to frame it as people prioritizing one set of instincts over another.
Yes.
So we do have a set of instincts to dominate, create dominion, to destroy. But we also have a set of instincts that binds us to our kin and our future kin. And that actually binds us to nature and says that, people like sunsets. People like watching the waves. People like swimming in pristine waters. Those are instinctual things.
Yes.
And for me, it means prioritizing certain instincts over others.
Okay. I really like that. Okay. Back to the ending. We have to talk about the ending because I know everyone at home is also like, what the fuck happened? Okay. So what was your big question with the unraveling? Like, what were you hung up on?
So, number one, what happens to B?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not important, but I want to know what happens to B. And I guess it just feels like there's so much happening, like the last 20, 30 pages. And it accelerates so quickly that I am still I'm reeling a little bit. So, over the course of those pages, Agnes becomes a surrogate mother, an adoptive mother rather.
Yeah.
For Fern. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And like it's about her becoming a mother, but it's just so quick. I'm like, what does Agnes actually think about this? What does Fern think about this?
Right.
What are their motivations? And I don't believe I understand them.
Yeah. I don't know. You're right. I have no idea. I feel like my mind sort of shut down at the end because I barely even remember Fern. Fern spoke Spanish, maybe? Is that true?
Fern spoke Spanish.
And she like found her, and then like everybody ended up having kids, right? Like everybody ended up adopting like children when they would like, and they were whistling and like meeting up and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't know what happened to everybody. I wrote down like what happened to the people who stayed, like Carl and them who tried to make the deal, and then what happened to B, and then what happened to Jake and all the runners. And I don't know. I sort of feel like everyone just got killed by the Rangers. That was like the way that I did it. But I don't know that that's true. It just feels like, I definitely feel like the people who stayed got killed. I think that the Rangers were like, or at least like beat up or like imprisoned or something. I think something really bleak happened to those people.
I think they at some point it pulls back and we get an omniscient narrator, and it's like they did deal roughly with some people, more roughly than they did with Agnes.
Right.
And I do believe some people, I definitely believe Carl is dead.
Carl's dead. Bye, Carl. Dead. Get a life.
Carl's dead. But like, I also think they probably split up the different resettlement places, so they wouldn't be able to develop the same communities in them.
Right.
But also, it's just like the last bit is just so intentionally chaotic
Right.
that, yeah, it's hard to have any takeaways from it.
Yeah, I do feel like the ending sort of ended up being like too many endings, and so there wasn't really an ending. And I do think that it sort of like did the book overall a disservice, because I felt like she was building towards something, and I felt like she had a lot of ideas of how it could end, and then it ended up having all of those endings instead of sort of like making a choice and picking one. And so the ending sort of in my mind feels chaotic, like you said, or like it doesn't, like I'm not really clear at all what happened. um and I also wonder what happened to the rest of humanity that wasn't in the wilderness. Like, where did those people go? Are they still in the city? Is the city even worse? Like, were the resettlement camps in the city, or were they outside the city? Like, yeah, it's just like a lot of questions. And I feel like for a book that was long and detailed, it got really unspecific. And I think
Yeah,
that's where the chaos came from for me.
that's where it was for me. You know, it was so incredibly detailed up until that point that I
Yeah.
lost a lot. You know, the fidelity. You lose a lot of fidelity right there,
Yeah.
and it was just, yeah.
So I don't know. I guess B in my mind, B is dead also.
I
I
think B is alive.
Oh, you do? Do you think she's really running around in the wilderness like those people who said that they saw her or whatever?
Actually, I do.
Okay. So you think
Yeah,
she got to stay in the wilderness alone?
yeah.
She's
Or
like
like,
the lone
even if she
wilderness.
is dead, there's something about her becoming like the spirit of,
Okay.
yeah. But I think she's alive and like the last person in the wilderness, the
And
last
then,
person who believes it's a wilderness.
right. And then Jake and all the other runners, like I think it was Val ran, I think Deb ran, those people, you think that they got captured and are in different resettlement camps spread out.
Yes.
Okay. I could go with that. And then the people who stayed, some of them are in resettlement camps and some of them are dead like Carl.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I guess that's the final bit of like America allegory is like they put all the people who live there in weird camps while they built houses for everybody else there,
Right.
which
Right.
is very, I mean, maybe that's why it's so weird to me, because it's, just dumb, a dumb
Right.
thing to do, but
Right.
it is mirroring real dumb things that
That we do
people
in
have done.
America. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned was the foreshadowing of the ending of the wilderness not being there anymore. And I took that foreshadowing. I did not see that was going to become the promised land. I took that to just mean that the humans ended up all coming and just overrunning it. Like, I just thought it was going to be like, or that the administration, out of some type of vengeance, just like burned the whole shit down and was like, we can't have nice things, or we need this space to create more city or something like that. Like, my thinking was a more like a repercussion to bad behavior by the people in the wilderness, and less of a we need these resources for the rich people, which I should have probably thought of because that's the obvious answer. But I had some like more convoluted, I think, roundabout way of getting to an ending with no wilderness.
But if you believe the private land idea, it's just, enclosure of space for rich
Right.
folks.
Right.
For me, like, it was like light bulb.
Obvious. Yeah. It's
That's
when
it.
you say it, it's so obvious to me. I like did, like there's like the A to B route, and I did like A to Z to Q to L to P to B. And I was like, okay, I'm here. Okay. We have to wrap up because it's basically time, but first two questions. One is, do you think this would be a good movie or TV show?
Oh, I think it'd be
I do too.
probably a TV show.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah, it feels a little ambiguous to be a movie to me, but like a TV show would be a good one, because then you could basically string along people like you do The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
You never have to end until you want to end.
Right. It's kind of like Lost, but without the supernatural elements, maybe.
Right. Well, it's kind of, I could see a little bit of supernatural, at least.
Yeah.
In what people believe, but yeah, it's, to me, it's formulaic in the way that like a Lost or a Walking Dead is.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I have two more questions still. I lied. I do really briefly want to talk about, what did you imagine that the people looked like racially? Did you feel like it was a diverse group? Did that ever cross your mind? Did you envision white people? Did you envision Black people? Like, did you have any real sense of that at
See,
all?
that's one place where I just don't know. I mean, I know she in some places describes people's skin color, but like the descriptions are just so opaque to me.
Yeah.
They don't create any mental image in my mind of what like some people's skin is like some type of bark and some people's like wet
Right.
sand. I don't. Yeah, that meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
To be, I just in my mind they were all white.
In my mind, they were mostly white too. But I couldn't tell if she was trying to do that thing that's like, in the future, there's been so much miscegenation that we're all the same and like there is no race. Like I couldn't tell if that's what she was trying to get at.
I just want people to describe
Yes.
people's skin color using real colors.
Yeah.
For me, there's lots of different types of wet sand. I don't
Yes.
really get I cannot place what a person looks like based on wet sand.
Right. Right.
Yeah, maybe the point was that I wasn't important, I guess, but
It's important to me. Like it's important to me to know what kind of people are getting picked to go to the wilderness, you know, like.
yeah, especially for like apocalyptic stories. I have this joke that, Black people don't exist in the future.
Right.
Because in so many different like post-apocalyptic, especially post-apocalyptic stories that have a message,
Yeah.
or dystopian stories that have a message, they so often like there just seems to be some common cataclysm in every single post-apocalyptic or dystopian story where all the Black people just die at some point.
Yeah.
And
They're
that's the
gone.
apocalypse to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are just no Black people in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think
And I don't know if that's true of this book because I can't tell.
it seems like, I feel like there was one person, one of the twins. I feel like one of the twins was very dark skinned and one of the twins was very light skinned. I feel like she said something like
and that was the joke. That was a gag. Yeah.
That was the joke. So there's like one possibly Black person or like dark brown person who was a joke, which of course is always how it is. But I do feel like there was at least one possible Black person in this book. Okay. The last thing that we always end on is just the title of the book and the cover. So the title is The New Wilderness, and then the cover is blue and has pink birds, maybe like fighting in the air type vibe. What do you think of those things?
Number one, I thought it's a good signal of what the book is, for one, which is not always the case of book covers.
Yes.
It's green and it's, that's the usual symbol for environment.
Right.
Originally it looked to me like there was a reflection of one bird, but now it's clear that there's two birds that are fighting for something. And I guess that's evocative of what the book is about, right?
Yeah, I guess. For me, first of all, I see the color of the background as not green, but more blue in my color scope. So for me, I actually don't think the cover is very clear about what the book is about. Like, I think it's interesting that you feel like it is, because to me, I was like, I don't know. Like, sure, there's things in nature on the book, but like, I don't know. I think like in my mind, when I think of the book, I think of a lot of brown and green. So the blue and the pink didn't really match for me. Of like how I experienced, like the colors I was thinking of when I was reading the book were very brown and green. And the birds also, like, I don't remember there being that many birds even in the book. Like, I was sort of
there were like no birds. There was like geese one time.
And I feel like wasn't there something like maybe circling up above at one point or something? I don't know. I think the cover is beautiful though. Like, as a piece of art, I think it's really gorgeous. As a cover for this particular book, it didn't really connect to me. And then we talked a little bit about the title, sort of like The New Wilderness, and wandering in the wilderness and all of that. So like, I think the title is good. And I think that I like that the title is very straightforward. Like, I think it's interesting, and it made me want to read the book. Like, when I saw the title, I was like, ooh, I'm interested in this book. So overall, I think it's good, but the cover isn't my favorite. The cover I think is beautiful, but it's not my favorite for the book. if you will.
Yeah, the cover. I mean, I think the title is great because it is the old wilderness again. Extending the Bible talk a little bit. Let's see. I think God told Aaron to go into the wilderness to see Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's clearly that's the old wilderness. That's the old idea of it, and the endeavor here is to talk about a new version of that to me.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought in all this biblical stuff because I would have missed so much of it. I'm so glad your Bible.
Sorry,
shit.
this is the several summers of Bible camp, Vann.
I love it. I truly, I would have missed so much of the book if not for having you be here today to discuss it in this way, because I don't think about the Bible. Like, I didn't go to Bible camp, obviously. But I think it adds like a layer, and I'm sure Diane Cook was thinking about that stuff too, obviously. I don't think you titled, I guess, a book anything to do with wilderness, a fiction book, unless you're thinking, I guess, of the wandering in the wilderness. I think that's a pretty strong choice.
Yeah, it's pretty clear to me. I know my Christian allegory.
Okay.
And so I think it's at least Abrahamic.
Yeah.
Allegory. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Vann, this was so great. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
And everyone else, we will see you in the stacks. Thank you so much to Vann for being our guest. Okay, here it is, your announcement for the Stacks Book Club pick for March. We'll be reading Everybody Looking by Candace Elo. It's a YA novel in verse. We're mixing things up around here. So be sure to tune in next Wednesday to find out who our guest will be. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, take a moment to leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram and at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter. And check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. Sebastian Alcala is our sound editor and producer. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Takiragis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.